Hello, dear friends. Long time no see. Patrick Peace here. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. I wanted to do a review today on my local paper. This is called the Woolwich Observer. It covers the region of Woolwich in the province of Ontario, Canada. And I love this paper. Just to start off, I'd like to say that it has excellent coverage of local events. You can see they got this coverage of a robbery at the local Dollar Tree, which just recently opened less than a year ago. And they got local events. They got the best Sudoku in all of Ontario papers. They've got local ads. They got the local obits, so you can see how your friends have moved on. And lots of real estate coverage and all kinds of local news, local police reports of things that have happened over the last little while, local sports coverage for those that like sports. And just overall, a really delightful paper, and it's delivered free to local residents in the Woolwich area, or you can pick them up at local drop boxes that they have. But I'd like to bring to your attention an article that was posted on page 3. So this article gets premier coverage. It's not tucked away in the back somewhere, and it's the second time that this paper has covered this individual. So I'm just going to pull it out from the center section here. You can see this individual here. He is Doug Thomas, and he's the president of Secular Connection. So this gentleman is an atheist, and he promotes atheism in his talks and what have you. And the article says that he's worried that the article says the implications of AI addressed as part of upcoming conference. So they have this conference for humanist atheists, and they discuss different topics. But the article is saying the implications of AI, because AI is an important topic. People are like, oh, they're a little bit worried about AI. Is it going to, take over the earth and all that? So that the headline catches people's attention, right? It's done on purpose. That's why people go to journalism school, to learn how to write, to learn the art of, what do you call it? Subtlety, right? The art of being subtle, and how to get people's attention, the use of words, and all that kind of stuff. Journalism school also teaches people to be amoral and to not have anything to do with God, of course, but that's for another topic. So the implications of AI, and this gentleman, Doug Thomas, his name is, he says that he's worried about it making moral decisions, and they put this in quotes. He says, anytime you turn your life over to a traditional God or to a machine God, you diminish your own freedom, your own responsibility for what you do. How about that for a statement? He says, anytime you turn your life over to a traditional God or to a machine God, you diminish your own freedom, your own responsibility for what you do, he told the Observer. And so he's equating, in this one statement, let's just take it apart for a second. In this one statement, he's saying that AI, machine God, he calls it, is similar to a traditional God. He puts them in the same category. Either or, he says. Either one of these is bad. And he says you diminish your own freedom. Jesus said, if the Son sets you free, you shall be free indeed. He said anyone that sins is a slave of sin. Jesus came to set people free, set the captives free, set you free from your sin. But he says the opposite, right? He says it takes away your freedom if you turn your life over to a traditional God, aka the Christian God. So he equates AI to the traditional God, and that nothing could be further from the truth. AI has no God programmed into it other than itself, other than what the humans program into it, or what it reprograms into itself. And then, so he says, having won battles, this is now the staff that's taking the article, Julian Gavanaugh, having won battles against the imposition of religious views on atheists and others, he now believes these achievements could be at risk. So they've already won these battles, right? Preventing people from apparently opposing religious views on atheists and others, aka they got Bible taken out of schools. Could be at risk due to unchecked technological power of those behind AI, many of whom he's saying the people behind the power of AI are in hock to the rising tide of far-right Christian nationalism. So this is straight out of left field. This is the Observer staff, the person, the journalist that's doing the story, is putting this statement in there. It doesn't say it's from Doug Thomas, but this is what the staff writer is saying. He's saying these people that behind this AI are in hock to the rising tide of far-right Christian nationalism. And of course, everyone knows Christian nationalism is scary and bad. And so he goes on to talk about the upcoming seminar they're going to have. And this is something to be aware of. I mean, this is the second time they've covered this gentleman. The first time he was in there, he was explaining how he's pushing for the right of youth, people under the age of 18, to have access to MAID, medically assistance in dying. He was saying they should have access to MAID just like everybody else. And he was also pushing to have any religious organizations remove their charitable status. This is what this guy fights for, this humanist organization. And just like the humanist organization in BC that's fighting to prevent religious organizations from getting tax-exempt status from the government, and so on and so forth. So this individual is against God. He's an anti-God person. He's an antichrist. Scripture tells us that many antichrists will arise and be all over the place, and this is the fulfillment of that scripture, right? Today we see many different types of antichrists that have arisen, and most journalists as well are against God. They are anti-theist, they are anti-God, and goes without saying that they are anti-Christ as well. And so there you have it. Remember the subtlety. The subtlety. We this word that was used in the Bible, remember this word, it said that the serpent, the devil, was subtle beyond all the other creatures. It's a representation of evil, that he was, the word used was subtil, S-U-B-T-I-L. That's the primitive form, or the archaic form of the word, what we use today, subtle, S-U-B-T-L-E. And isn't it interesting, you notice about this word subtle, that the B is silent? It gives a characteristic of the word itself. Subtle means to be sly and crafty, to go unnoticed. So you don't notice that there's a B in the word subtle. If you just spell it like it sounds, it's S-U-T-T-L-E, or however you want to spell it. But the B is in there. You could say the B is for Beelzebub, for want of a better imagination. I'm just thinking out loud here. But the B is hidden. So the evil in a person that is subtle is hidden. Now, you should mention that Solomon also, or you should be aware, I should mention, that Solomon also said that if you learned wisdom, you could learn to have an ability at subtlety in a positive sense, and learn how to be circumspect, to learn how to have discretion, to learn how to present yourself in a way that's upright and proper, I believe would be the context of Solomon using it. However, we're told in the Old Testament that that word subtle is associated with craftiness, with deception. And of course, it was used to describe the devil. It was also used when the apostles were approached by this guy who was, he called himself Bar Jesus, and he wanted to deceive people and use witchcraft and sorcery. And Paul said, "You're full of subtlety and wickedness and deceit, and you're of the devil." And he struck him blind just by rebuking him. You can read that story in the New Testament, I believe in the book of Acts. Anyway, getting back to my point, when you read your local paper, keep your eyes and ears open for these stories that include subtle references. They want to repeat their lies over and over and over and over again. Whenever they use the word, I'm not going to use the full statement because it puts a notice if you use the word, and you'll know the phrase relating to what we would call weather patterns, and how they can be in one state at one time and in a different state at another time. Put those two phrases together and you get the term that is repeated over and over again. If you listen to local radio programs, the local radio programs will continually repeat that phrase to normalize it, to get you to basically hypnotize you, and to mesmerize you into accepting that as the accepted norm. And of course, the term Christian nationalism is also in that subtle category. They want to make sure that you're aware that how terrible this thing is that's called Christian nationalism. So the two words together, the first one, Christian, well, they always promote that as being terrible. And then the second one, nationalism, to be proud of your own country, to be proud of the Canadian flag. This is something they don't want anything to do with, because the forces that pay these people that work for these mainstream media are the forces of evil, and they are against anything to do that would strengthen a country. They want to destroy your country. They want to destroy your faith. They don't mind bringing in other faiths or other religions or other ideologies or other flags, for that matter. Bring in all the other flags that you want. But they don't want the Canadian flag. Why? Because that's associated with the nation of Canada, and anything to do with nationalism is bad. So there you go. Be on your alert for anything that is subtle. It doesn't, it just sneaks it in there. It just wants you to be reminded over and over and over again what their view is. And their view is against God. It is against Christ. And I'll leave you with that. So keep that in mind. You know, it's funny. I was at church this past weekend, and the preacher said, the world doesn't need another opinion, right? Just be the good Samaritan. You know, you can do good deeds, but nobody wants to hear what you think. Don't talk about politics. Don't talk about current events. Nobody needs to hear that. There's too many people already talking about giving their opinion. This is what the preacher is telling you, right? So don't forget, your local church is an extension of the state. The state does not want Christians to share their opinion. The state does not want Christians to speak out, because this is what they're fighting against. They're fighting against God. They're fighting against Christianity. They don't want anything to do with that. It's the same spirit that existed in the first century that said, we will not have this man rule over us. This is the attitude of the people that came out. And you can see it in there. He says, you can't surrender yourself to God, because then you don't have your responsibility. That's the opposite. It's the exact opposite. When you surrender to God, then you become responsible to the golden rule. You can become responsible to God and his commands about not to cheat and kill and steal and to be deceptive and rip people off. That's what you become responsible to, and they don't want any of that. They don't want anything to do with morality that is based on a biblical perspective at all. And the local church supports that. Says don't have an opinion on anything. Just keep your head down, be quiet, be the good Samaritan, do good deeds. That's fine. But don't speak up about anything that may be happening in your local community or about your local government or anything that's happening in the political landscape. That's taboo for them. And that's why they're being overrun by small organizations of atheists. Just maybe a group of 30 people from British Columbia are saying, we want the government to take away their charitable status. And what did the Christian church do in response? The largest organizations representing millions of Canadians, the Evangelical Fellowship of Canada and the Canadian Council of Churches, what did they do? They wrote a letter. They wrote a letter to the Minister of Finance and said, oh, with trembling lips, is this true? We heard that there were some farmers that were prevented from getting access to this small business support because they were religious organizations. That's what they said in their letter. Is it true? They didn't complain. They didn't voice their opinion about it. They didn't say that this shouldn't be like that at all. Zero backbone, zero speaking up, just to give a pretense that they're going to do something. They are absolutely inert, without any voice at all in the Canadian political, social, economic landscape. Zero. And you can have a small group of 30 atheists, 30 humanists that'll come on the scene, and they will wipe out the Christian church in Canada. Wipe it out. That's all it takes, is a few people that are, why? Because they're willing to give their opinion. They represent Satan. They say, we don't want to have God. We want no God, no Bible, no religion, no churches in Canada. That's what they want. And what do the Christian churches do? They roll over and play dead. And they won't give their opinion because they think, oh, well, we're not supposed to do that. We've been taught that. Subtlety. Be careful for these subtle messages that come out and want to destroy the Christian church in Canada. And when it's your turn, don't be afraid to give an opinion. Don't listen to someone that tells you, oh, we don't need your opinion. Don't be afraid. Jesus said that if you confess me before men, he'll confess you before the angels in heaven. So don't be afraid to confess Christ before men in your community, in your town, wherever it comes up. Stand up for him and he'll stand up for you. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you. I love you very much. Don't forget to spend time with people you love. We'll talk to you again real soon. Take care. Bye for now.